Muted myself. See, I muted myself. I want you all to hear me. Good evening, everyone. It's your girl, Marcy Thomas, and I am so excited to be back with you for another episode of the BGC Book Club. Actually, I only posted or did an interview once last week, and it feels like it's been forever since I've been in this space. So, welcome back. I am joining you from the outskirts of Atlanta, Georgia, where I love having these great conversations with women who write books that are by, for, and about us. So if you don't mind, if you're here for the first time or you come every week, whatever the case may be, please feel free to drop where you're joining us from in the comments. And always know that this is not going to be just a two-way conversation, but you all are a part of the conversation as well. So tonight I am really excited to bring to you someone whose first book has been out just a little over a month as of today, and I've been waiting for this conversation for quite a while. So our special guest is Christina Dotson, who is an Eleanor Taylor Bland crime fiction Writers of Color Award runner-up. That's a lot of words. I had to say it slow. In addition to writing, she's a lover of carbs, a woman after my own heart, and plot twists, and a licensed super social worker for a palliative care practice, and she actually lives in Kentucky. So tonight we're going to be talking about her first book, Love You to Death, which I really enjoyed. We talked about some things and themes before we decided to come on, or it was time for us to come on. So I can't wait to get into this conversation with Christina. So without any further delay, let's welcome Christina Dotson to BGC Book Club for the first time.
Hello.
Hello. It's such a pleasure
Hi.
to have you here.
I am so honored that you invited me. So thank you very, very much. I'm very excited. I
Oh, yeah.
love this podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. So, first and foremost, I want to congratulate you. As I mentioned, your book has been out for a little over 30 days. So, as a
hmm
debut author, what has that felt like for you, or has it been overwhelming, exciting, a little bit of both?
I would say a little bit of both. I tell people that the day that it was released, I felt like I wanted to throw up. Like
Mm.
I was just so nervous about people finally reading it. You're so protective of it for a long time, and now I know that it had advanced readers, but now that everybody's reading it, like people that you actually know, I was just kind of like, uh-oh, like what are they going to think about me? Are they going to think I'm crazy? But no, but it's been really fun and overwhelming, but the love has just been so like unbelievable. Like I get a lot of DMs, I get tagged in a lot of stuff online, and people text me when they're reading certain parts of the book, or just telling me where they are in the book and telling me that they're enjoying it. So I always appreciate that. People have been taking pictures when they see it in the store. So yeah,
Easily.
it's been amazing. I still can't believe that it actually happened. So yeah.
Yes. And there's a little bit of a tech glitch there for a second, but y'all just hold on with us. That's what happens when you do things live. But yes, I am excited for you. And as I told you before we came on, I really enjoyed reading the book. There were things that I expected and anticipated, and of course some things that I didn't. Yes. And for those of you
Yeah.
all who don't normally watch, we are not going to tell you the whole story. We're not going to give you spoilers, but we are going to talk about, some of the themes and things like that in the book. So, as this is your first book,
hmm
what was it that made you decide to want to write a thriller of sorts versus, 5011 other genres that are out there in the world?
Honestly, like thrillers are just it's just what I like to read. They are the kinds of movies and TV shows that I like to watch. They're the only kind of books. Like if you were to look at my bookshelf right now, it's all thrillers. Anything that has twists and turns and psychological elements and murder, that's my jam. So,
Mhm.
yeah, and I that's just what I like to write. I can start out wanting to write something just innocent and pure, but it always turns into something dark. So that's just how my mind works. But I love
Okay.
it.
So do you partake of a lot of like true crime or things like
hmm
that?
Oh,
On TV
absolutely. I
shows?
Yes, I love true crime podcasts. I like true crime documentaries. Yeah, anything that has any type of mystery. Like I watch a lot of ID channel. I actually just watched that Jussie Smollett doc on Netflix. I mean, I know
Okay.
that's not like murder or anything, but it was interesting. Did you see it? It just came
I
out,
haven't,
I think,
I
last
haven't
week.
watched it yet, but I've heard
Yeah.
about it.
It's interesting. So,
Mm,
makes you
okay.
kinda think, well, like, was he innocent? Or, anyway, you watch it and tell me what you think, but
Okay, I definitely will
yeah.
reach out and do that. So, for
Mhm.
anyone who has not had a chance to read Love You to Death yet, what is the basic premise of the story?
So, the basic premise is it's about 2, longtime best friends, Kayla and Zorie. It's told from Kayla's perspective, and they are 2 of the most unlucky women I've ever seen. They really can't get out of their own way. When they were teenagers, they got into some trouble that, led them to, like, a year spent in prison, so that kinda limited their employment choices when they got out. So because of that, I mean, they become convicted felons, and not all of us have the opportunity to become the president of the United States as a
Right.
convicted felon. So,
Right.
they end up working at this hotel where they barely make minimum wage. So they can't really pay their bills. So to compensate for that, they decide to start crashing weddings and stealing from the gift table, like taking the appliances, the gift cards, the money. And at one of these weddings that they crash, it happens to be an antebellum-themed wedding. So everybody's dressed up like pre-Civil War, but something happens where somebody ends up killed. And so these 2 women make the decision to go on the run. And then there's a nationwide manhunt, and just chaos ensues from there. But it's during this journey that they start to really kind of peel back the layers of their friendship and really learn a lot about each other and some of the things they don't want to know about each other. So that's,
Right.
yeah. So
Right.
that's kind of what it's about. Yeah.
Yes, and as I said, I really loved it, and in the midst of all of that that's happening, because all of that's excitement, right? But then
Mhm.
there are deeper level themes that play out throughout it. If you really like think about it. One of them you already mentioned is like
Mhm.
women and choices that if they
Yeah.
do find themselves in a situation where they have been to jail, now they're a felon. What does life look like afterwards? So that's just one of many themes that we run across in the book,
Mhm.
but it feels a little like Thelma and Louise. It
Yes.
feels a little like maybe some other things that we've seen, but just from a whole totally different perspective with Black women in the lead. So, what was it that inspired you for this particular story?
Well, this particular story was inspired by a news story that I saw about a woman. She I can't remember what state she was from, but she would crash weddings, and she did it in Mississippi and Alabama and Nashville, um, in Memphis, and she would just show up at various weddings, and they would catch her on camera taking stuff from the reception table, and then she would leave, and she just kept doing it, and she eventually got caught. She went to jail. She recently, I think a few years ago, she passed away.
Mm,
But I just thought when I saw that on the news that it was just like the most ridiculous story, because who has the audacity to show
right.
up to somebody's wedding, complete stranger, and just steal from them? I mean, it's so mean and cruel, but also it's kind of smart and clever, because you don't think about that stuff and you can get
Mm,
away with it. I mean, you can find anybody's wedding information online if you want to go to a wedding this weekend. So I just thought that that made the premise for the most interesting story, and I thought it would be more fun if it was about 2 best friends doing it, like tag teaming.
mhm.
But again, because my mind always goes to dark places, I wanted some like sloppy, messy, dark, twisted things to happen. So, but the seed was planted with that news story. So there's a lot of interesting news stories that can make really good
Yeah, we're
books.
having,
So, oh, did I lose you?
yes. Yeah.
Oh.
Just for a hot second. It's back though.
Oh,
It's back
okay.
though. Yes. Yeah. So I missed maybe the last 15 seconds of what you said.
Oh, I was just saying that the news has a lot of stories that make for really good books. So, yeah, you can get a
Mhm,
lot of
mhm.
inspiration from the news. Mhm.
Yes, yes, real world stuff that people are doing that you wouldn't think of that, because just off the top, I'm thinking, yeah. When usually if you think of a wedding crasher, oh, they just went because they wanted free food to dance, whatever, whatever.
Right.
Nah, I'm going there because I'm going to rip these people off. So
Right.
that's something in and of itself. But in the story of Zorie and Kayla, I want to kind of go back a little bit further, because in this book we kind of see, through Kayla's point of view, how they became friends, and
Mhm.
and how the story progresses. But tell us a little bit about them, because they're friends, but they're the same, but they're different.
Yeah. So Kayla and Zorie are, I feel like, just like in a lot of friend groups or friendships, you kind of balance each other out. So Kayla is the more reserved of the duo. She's more level-headed, or she attempts to be the more level-headed one. And then Zorie is more spirited, more assertive, outgoing, and a little bit wild and crazy. But together, they kind of become each other's world just because of their backgrounds. They have some pretty traumatic things on both sides that happen to them. So they really lean on each other, and basically, like, that kind of cements their bond, and they want to be, uh, they're pretty much each other's shield and ride or die. So yeah, but the thing about Kayla um, that she doesn't even realize herself is just how much she is really like Zorie, but she just does a better job of hiding it because she wants people to see her a certain way. But so she kind of like protects her darkness from other people. But yeah, but she's a lot like Zorie than she wants to believe. So.
Mhm, mhm.
Hmm.
And it's just interesting, as we talked about this a little bit before we came on, just, the ways that people can come together in relationships.
Hmm.
And, there are a lot of terms that we hear being thrown around nowadays. And you work, as a social worker, and
Yeah.
you see a lot of different things with the people that you work with.
Hmm.
But just from a trauma bond type of experience, where
Right.
bad things have happened, and you become like close to this person because of that. But
Mhm.
maybe under different circumstances, you all wouldn't even connect.
Yeah, and it's definitely not healthy to to establish relationships like that, because if it's rooted in trauma, it's probably always going to be trauma. But yeah, these two women, they can't leave each other alone, and they are kind of they're codependent on each other, maybe a little bit of obsession, because they know each other better than really, like, Zorie knows Kayla better than Kayla knows herself, and the
Mhm.
opposite is true. So they really feel like they're protecting each other, even though they continuously make things worse for each other. So um, they're their own worst enemies, but they're best friends. And it's a very strange dynamic, but it's so interesting because as a social worker, I love complex relationships and complex family dynamics. So anything that has to do with just kind of messy, unhealthy things with relationships, like, I'm into it. I mean, not personally, but I like to write about
Okay.
it. So yeah, like, I don't like that stuff myself, but
Right. Right. But I guess from the perspective of, helping people to heal,
hmm.
I guess the more complex it is, the more places you have to kind of dig in and,
Yeah.
figure things out.
Mhm, absolutely. Like, we do, it's for my job mostly, well, telehealth, but I always say, and when I used to do home visits with, like, families, and if they follow you out to your car and they start smoking a
Mhm,
cigarette and then they're leaning on your hood, they're about to tell some really juicy stuff. So,
mhm.
and I live for it. But, I like to help problem solve. But yeah, so that was kind of a lot of the things that I've seen as a social worker kind of inspired my characters in this book, because you can take a lot of inspiration from just studying human behavior. So,
Mhm.
mhm,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Looking at human behavior because, as you mentioned, family dynamic. Now, and this isn't telling anything because some of these things are in the blurb. So we don't do
mhm,
spoilers here. So don't worry about that. But like Kayla, she has family,
mhm.
very dysfunctional type with her father, a father, a stepsister, and step monster. I'm calling her.
Well,
It's
that's true.
very, it's just it's very different.
Mhm,
And so that plays a factor in her, plus some other things that y'all have to read the book to figure out how she ends up with a stepmother and a stepsister. There are certain things that happen in her early life, but just looking at that, like you can have, a person can grow up and maybe have, a quote unquote perfect family, and then something happens in that family that the dynamics change, and now you bring these new people in who have
mhm,
their own ideas and their own desires, and how it can have a really sometimes negative impact on, in this case, the child.
mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. That just blended families are hard anyway, and I feel like when
You still,
you
yeah, it
oh,
was,
can you hear me? Oh, did I cut out again? I'm
yeah,
sorry.
I
Okay.
can.
I
Yeah, it's on both sides, so we're gonna get through it.
yeah, I can still hear you, but yeah, so I was just saying like blended families are hard anyway, and then when you're an only child like Kayla is, it makes it even harder to try to figure out a way to bond with that other person that's entering the house and trying to kind of reclaim or take the place of someone. And then if your relationship with the one parent is already kind of flawed, then it just makes it 10 times more difficult. So,
Hmm.
mhm,
Yeah, and your stepmother, stepsister, all of that. And just so because of this, like Zori, she really doesn't have family because of some things that have happened to her, or happened with her, that we
mhm,
find out about in the book. That is a part of that trauma bond because they both kind of feel like we don't have anybody else. So you
mhm.
are my sister, you are, my ride or die. They call
Right.
each other ride or die, which is just very interesting to see that.
Mhm. Yeah. So, they definitely, develop as their relationship continues as they get older. I mean, they definitely really lean into that, and it can kind of bleed into manipulation. So, yeah, yeah, like love can be disguised as manipulation, and you don't always recognize it. So, mhm. Uh oh, did I lose you again? Hello. Oh, sorry. I feel like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah, I
good.
think it's on both sides. So yeah, sorry about that, everybody.
Did you hear but I was just saying, like, it's hard sometimes love is disguised as manipulation, and you don't
Mhm.
always see it right away, so and I think that's what happens or I don't think, I know that's what happens with Kayla and Zori's relationship.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean it's something because of this bond and this thing of feeling like, you kind of person can make you feel like you owe me because of this.
Mhm. Yeah.
Those sorts of things, and we see that dynamic play out throughout. Like, well, I'm doing this for you. I'm trying to protect you. I'm trying to help you, and both of them are doing that, and not really, I guess, being honest with themselves about what they're really feeling, nor being honest with each other.
Right. Yeah. Because I feel like those kinds of relationships can become very transactional and you feel indebted to that person. So you feel like if you walk away, you're a bad person because you owe them because they've done this for you, like you were saying. So yeah, that just kind of keeps tethering you to that other person and just keeps it pulled tighter. It's until it comes becomes so uncomfortable that you know you have to break away.
Hmm. Yes, but as you mentioned earlier, they end up starting this quote unquote crime spree
Yeah.
because they're struggling.
Mhm.
They're working at a hotel and, not making a whole lot of money. And so they're trying to figure out how to make ends meet because, again, they don't really necessarily have family that they can go to and depend on to support
Mhm.
them throughout this. So it also makes me think about a lot of times there's judgment. And I mean, I'm not, no, let's be clear. We're not saying people should go out and commit crimes.
Right.
But in this story, you kind of get to understand why a person might do something like that because
Mhm.
it's about survival. It's not like criminality just for the sake of criminal. You're
Right.
trying to survive.
Yes, and that survival is like an ongoing theme throughout this book. That they're doing what they think is the right thing for their situation to survive. But yeah, like when you have that stain on your record, like you're a convicted felon, I mean, it limits you to so many things, and you end up finding jobs that don't pay hardly anything. So how do you survive? Even though you've paid your debt to society, you're just trying to get ahead, and you're ostracized already, and like society won't let you because I don't know about your family, but I've had, like my uncles, I've had people in my family who have been to prison and who have come out and tried to kind of get in the right step with their life, like but it just certain situations make it so hard for them to move forward with their lives and to better themselves. So what always happens is they kind of resort back to what they did before, that because it was quicker, it was easier, it's what they know. And then once they start doing that again, then they get back into prison. So it's just a cycle, but
Right?
life just doesn't make it easy or give them any grace for that. And that's kind of Kayla and Zorie's situation too.
And just being able to see that with women, because
Mhm.
I do know people who have been in that situation, and
Mhm.
either they kind of, a lot of them end up starting their own businesses. To be honest with you,
That's a good idea.
or
Mhm.
doing things like that, so they don't have to worry about going over here and having somebody, being told
Yeah.
no or being relegated to things that maybe they don't have the same level of opportunities. So
Mhm.
that's real, and being able to see that with young Black women, to know that that can be real for them as well. And really,
Mhm.
y'all have to read the book, but the thing that they go to jail for is kind of like, that really didn't even have to happen, but y'all have to that they went
Yes.
to jail, I should say. But you have to read it to find out what happened that landed them in jail at a young age. But that's something that really wasn't necessary, but for other reasons, we know why
Mhm.
that happened. But you have
Yeah.
to read the book to find out what they are. So,
Right.
but yeah, just to think about that, and how it impacts the person for the rest of their lives.
Mhm. Right. So, yeah, it definitely doesn't set them up for success starting out their young adult lives, but
Mhm.
and so when they come up with this side hustle of stealing stuff, I mean, it's lucrative, it works, it's easy, they're good at it, but every time they do it, it gets more risky. And this last one, it was stupid. They shouldn't have even gone. Like when they pulled into the parking lot, they should have just left.
Right.
But I feel like when you're young and you're desperate, you make it breeds really dumb decisions out of
Mhm.
desperation and circumstance. So they do what they think is the best thing for their situation for survival, and then it ends up like spiraling, and then it's just it it's the worst decision that they could have made, but
Yes. I mean,
mhm.
period.
Yeah.
But we're also talking about place because they're in the South. This is
Yes.
happening in the South. And the timeline is current. So imagine in the South, because I mean, the South is still the South. Y'all know what I'm saying.
Always.
Two young Black women in the South in an orange America
bright
going on
orange. Ugh.
going on a crime spree.
Mhm.
So that is suspenseful in and of itself. Just to think that, at any time it would be,
Mhm.
a wild ride, but even right now. So these young ladies live in Georgia. Is that a real town in Georgia, or is it something that did
No,
you
I made it up.
made up in town?
Redwood
But
Springs.
yes, they live in
Mhm.
this small town in Georgia, and they're going around Georgia, not necessarily going to black weddings. They're going to white weddings.
Mhm.
So there's the whole thing of showing up as the, maybe the one or two black friends in the room, which is
Right.
risky in and of itself.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, especially if you show up at an antebellum-themed wedding, which
Yes.
I will never understand why people are still having those, like, pretending that it's pre-Civil War and dressing up and in those stupid outfits, and, yeah, I feel like too in certain towns and in certain circles, I mean, if you are in a predominantly white town or, and there's a wedding, they know how many black friends that they have, like Zorie and Kayla say to each other. I mean, it's obvious, like, and you show up and you stick out, and like these two women did, but they try their best to blend in, but yeah, I mean, it's dangerous out there during these times, and some of the things like the, "Make America Great Again" bumper stickers that they see, I
Mhm,
mean, that was all very intentional because these
mhm.
are everything is so heightened now,
Right.
and I think that that plays into the tension with this story too, it makes it even more scary, so yeah, that's it was wild.
Yes. So I knew it had to be intentional because I mean, of course, you could have set the story in another time or whatever the
Oh,
case
yeah.
may be, but
Mhm.
choosing to make it like this is happening in 2025
Yes,
that we're
exactly.
seeing this story take place, and just
Mhm.
all of the political things, even though it's not a political book, but just the fact that that plays a
Mhm.
factor in the things that are happening in the story. But yes, watching them show up at because like, ain't no way.
Right.
That would be enough to be like, yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, you hit reverse and then you're out, but yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know why, I mean, I don't know why I'm saying I don't know why I made them stay, but they should have left,
right,
but then we wouldn't have a
right.
story, so
But that brings
anyway.
up something else for me, Christina. In terms of, I mean, we know that there was a story that you saw on the news about, wedding crashing and things like that.
Mhm.
But in terms of picking these particular characters and how they developed or didn't develop throughout the book, were they talking to you, or did you kind of decide who they were going along with that path?
No, I always tell people that this story, it really did write itself. It was not sound corny. I mean, it felt effortless because these women were dictating their story. Like, I'm not, a plotter, I'm a pantser, so I had no idea what was going to happen or how this was gonna play out, but yeah, they were talking to me the whole time. When I first started writing it, I didn't know how, Zorie and Kayla, their personalities would necessarily be because I had intentional or initially wanted to, start out writing like 2 Zorie type best friends.
Okay.
So, yeah, but then, it evolved into, I wanna have one that kinda anchors the other. So then Kayla's her personality kinda shifted from that. So mhm.
Okay. And also telling the story from Kayla's point of view. Obviously, every choice was intentional, but
Mhm.
I thought it was interesting to have her point of view because she's like telling both of their stories, but we never really get to hear what Zori is thinking.
Yeah. I've heard feedback from readers too about, like, if it was a dual, point of view kind of book, like, if we had, Kayla and Zori's perspective, and looking back, maybe that could have been an interesting story because I Zori was my favorite character to
Really?
write. Yeah, because she was I like to write the crazier ones, but
Okay.
yeah. So, but thinking about it, like that could have been a good like a good option if I had have done dual point of views. Honestly, I'll be very honest, like I don't really like reading books with the dual point of
Okay. And
views.
that's fair.
So
That's fair.
yeah, and I mean they're not it's not bad, but I'm always someone that just likes to stick with one person and their thoughts. So I've never written a book with that, but I might try it on down the road because yeah,
Mhm.
this story could have had a different vibe if I think if it had have been from both of their perspectives. So, because Zorie is she's
Mhm.
very
Well,
complex.
it's still
Mhm.
as I said, and yeah, Zori is very complex. So like to get inside of
Mhm.
her head would have been interesting. But nevertheless, being able to see, Kayla tell her story
Mhm.
and at different points throughout try to understand her and maybe by the end and y'all to really have maybe have a better understanding of why she was doing some of the things that she was doing because she was definitely a wild card and like the very first thing, how well do we really know our friends? We get to see that maybe even though they've
Right.
had this long-term relationship, maybe they don't know each other as well as they thought that they did.
Mhm. I think you find that with a lot of friendships too. Like, do you really know like who you feel like is your closest friends? Because I feel like sometimes even when you just travel somewhere with someone, maybe your first trip, you don't really know how they're going to act when you go to Florida or when you go to Jamaica or something, and then you get a different perspective of um, their demeanor, their temper that you didn't see before, and you're just like, oh, people say that a lot in relationships, like romantic
Mhm.
relationships, when you go on a trip, like on a road trip or something, and you're in the car with your man or your woman for like, I don't know, 15 hours, like that's a big test of your connection.
Right?
So yeah, sometimes you don't know everything, and I feel like sometimes we hide the best are the darkest parts of us to present the best. So maybe I feel like everybody has secrets. So some of us are just better at keeping them suppressed than others. So yeah.
Yes, because yeah, there's the crime. There's a road trip based upon something that goes wrong at the
Mhm.
antebellum wedding, and so they end up going on a road trip. I mean, they had
Mhm.
done some things kind of in their community initially or close by, and initially, but this causes them to have to go on this road trip because they're trying to run away from something bad that happens, right? So
Mhm.
we do get
Yes.
to see that, like, it from simplest things like, why are you driving that way? Or, or why
Yes.
are we stopping here? And of course, in this case, everything is elevated, everything is more intensified because we're basically running, trying to not get caught for this thing that happens at this wedding.
Mhm.
But then other stuff starts to happen as they're trying to protect themselves and
Mhm.
we meet a bunch of interesting characters along the way in the different places where they stop.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of, uh, strange and interesting characters, so I think that was probably, like, the most fun is, writing all these side characters that they meet that kinda make their trip more, difficult, and some are very helpful, but yeah, so, I feel like, as you mentioned before, the book has a lot of it gives off Thelma and Louise vibes because that's one of my favorite movies. So
Mhm.
when I used to watch, or not when I used to, whenever I do watch Thelma and Louise, I'm always looking at it and thinking, like you were saying, like why didn't they do it this way? They could have got away with it if they had a first off, if they had to just change that car. I mean, you know.
Right,
So
right. Yes.
when I was yeah. When I was writing this book,
Yeah.
I was trying to think about like how they would get away with different things. Yeah. So to do it the other way. But because these ladies are just so, you know, dumb. They make these decisions that they think that are smart, to survive, and then they just kind of keep making things worse. But yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I wanted to do a Cadillac
Yes.
Eldorado like them. And well, they didn't have an Eldorado or Cadillac, but yeah, but it kind of looks like that.
Hmm.
Yeah, they did such a good job
Yes,
with the
you can see
cover.
see their car there, and and the car that, and I mean, that's a car you can't hide.
Right, bright
So
yellow.
there's
I mean,
that, you commit
yes,
this crime happens, and you're driving this car that's easily have,
right.
so it's easy to get caught. So then what do you do when you have this car, this vehicle?
Yeah,
and,
exactly. You definitely
and you're
couldn't
trying
take
to
that
get
on the
away.
road. Right. That's like a flashing light, like, that's obvious. So,
No,
yeah.
because I mean that's very,
Mhm.
yeah, that's very, very obvious. That's very, very obvious. But just looking at, the cast of characters that they meet along the way, they, those people weren't necessarily that good either. So from your to talk about the dark side, we get to see the dark side not just of Kayla and Zorie, but the cast of characters along the way. Everybody's like kind of doing some stuff just not too cool.
Right. Yeah. They're definitely doing the most, especially when they get to New Orleans. But yeah, I had so much fun writing them, and I really just wanted because these women, like I said, they are making all of these choices, and it's kind of like a choose your own adventure. Like, well, if you do this, then this is going to happen, and if you do this, then this is going to happen. So it was kind of like a mapped out uh, a map of disaster for them. So with all of these different people that they meet, but
Mhm.
yeah, I think my favorites were uh, Paul and Ruth Ann, and I loved Officer Don. I thought he was funny. So yeah,
Mhm.
but I loved every single character. So did you have a favorite one or like a side character?
A side character?
Hmm.
Trying to think.
Or a favorite location that you
Favorite
that you
location, I would say probably, well, when they were heading towards Alabama in that area, because
Mhm.
before they even really got out of the state good, you know,
Yeah.
running into some people that they had met earlier on, and just
Mhm.
seeing how they reconnected and what happened with that. But
Yeah.
it's just the thing that I'm thinking though is because this bad thing had happened, and now, as you mentioned at the top, there is this manhunt, woman hunt,
Mhm.
because of this thing that's happened. And people are seeing them on the news, they're hearing about them on the radio. So they definitely have to be very cautious and careful. Um,
Mhm.
and like changing names along the way and stuff like that. So it's
Yeah.
like you don't know who's heard the story.
Mhm.
And the fact that people going on with,
Oh.
all right. And so you're pretending to be something that you're not, but they know exactly who you are, and they're using that to their advantage. So we get to see a lot of that too, how people, the seedier side of humans, and like you said, the dark side of how people might be
Mhm.
in a situation where they feel like, hey, there could be something in it for me by dealing with this person, or I could take advantage of this person because I know that they're needy. So
Right.
it's not just the dynamic between the two friends, it's also the dynamic with everybody around them.
That's very true. Like manipulation is also an ongoing theme throughout this book with other people manipulating them and them manipulating each other, but everybody, like I said, it all kind of ties into survival. So people are manipulating each other for their own survival to get to the next step with their own plans or their own well-being. Everybody's just trying to take care of themselves in some shady way. But
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
messy.
It's very messy, but again, I enjoyed it because looking underneath, thinking about dynamics between friends.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
thinking about dynamics when people have maybe less than ideal life situations and the choices
Mhm.
that you have to make because of that. How do you navigate family or don't navigate family? All of these sorts of things. And well, I don't want to say too much, but I'll just say this: when there's mental health things going on, what's all
Yes.
that about too? Not saying too much because again, the point is for you all to read
Yes.
to see, what's going on. And yeah, so I do want to ask you a little bit about because we're having the technical difficulties, I don't want us to get cut off at this
Okay.
point. But I do just want to ask you a little bit about process of being a writer, because you told me
Mhm.
before we came on that it took several years for you to like write and finally get a book deal and things like that. So what is your process for writing, and things to help you to get a book deal for those who might be interested in writing as well?
Yeah. So, I don't have, let's see, a process. Like, I don't have a schedule for writing, or anything like that. I just kind of, write when I feel inspired, and, I feel like I always get story ideas from, things that people say, or things that news stories, or just, sometimes just little things that you hear can plant, one of those kind of, well, what would happen if, uh, blah 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 happened, and then you can, kind of take the story from there. But yeah, I started seriously pursuing like a literary agent because I always wanted to be traditionally published. I know that there are a lot of different avenues to publishing, but I want it to be traditionally published. That was always my goal, and I know that that's the hardest one, the hardest road to take. And obviously, because it took me almost 20 years to get, a traditional, publishing deal. But yeah, I
Mhm.
started, querying, in the early 2000s, and when you still had to print out your manuscripts and send
Wow.
in those self-addressed stamped envelopes, and then they would send you your rejection back in your envelope.
Oh
So
wow. You have to
yeah.
pay to get rejected. Wow.
Yes, I mean, I spent a lot of time at Kinko's. I don't even know if Kinko's is still around, but,
I don't think so.
yeah. But yeah, like that's when it all started, and I've gotten close before, and I was lucky enough to get into some mentor programs like Pitch Wars and Write Mentor, like, a few years ago, and those were so, like, helpful with, making your writing sharper and learning about the craft, because I didn't study that in school. I thought that when I went to college, I've always wanted to be a writer, I should say, since I was like 10 years old. So it's always been something that I wanted to do. So I've always been writing, but I didn't think that I needed to study it in school because I thought it was just like a natural thing that you did. So, and I didn't know what I would do with a writing degree anyway. So I went through, to social work, and then,
Mm.
I was like, well, I'll always write anyway. So I continued to do that. Just, but I've always written thrillers. So, yeah, and then, just querying, and I always wanted the agent that I have now. Like, she was always my top 3. So, and she'd always, until 2 years ago when she finally offered on this book, but she always rejected me, but she would always give really good feedback, which is what I appreciate. So yeah, with this particular book, the whole experience was just very unique. Like, I started out just querying, and querying is, for the audience, is just when you, give a summary or of what your book is about, and then you craft like a letter to literary agents if you want to do traditional publishing, because you have to have a literary agent to do that. There are some publishers that take, unagented agented people, writers, but, yeah, if your goal is to get to one of the, like, big 5, publishers, then you definitely need a literary agent. But anyway, I queried about 12 agents for this story, and within 48 hours, I had about 10 full requests
Okay.
for the full manuscript, so that never happened before, like, that fast. So I knew that this story felt special. And it was, I think that the hook was very unique, especially with the antebellum theme and the wedding crashing.
Mm.
So yeah, everything kind of happened fast. Um, uh, uh, I got my agent, and then we went on submission the first week of October, and then we had accepted an offer from my publisher on Halloween. So it was just very,
Oh,
very
wow.
fast. Yeah. So I feel like this book is just very, very special. And I'm so glad that I had the chance to write it and to meet these women, even though they're insane. So
They are insane. They're
yeah.
very messy, but I mean, aren't we all to a certain extent? Now, we might not be out,
Not me. I'm perfect. I'm just
yes, you
kidding.
are.
I'm just
Yes,
kidding.
you are.
I'm very messy. I'm one of those people I was talking about that hides the darkness well. So
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, to be able to write it, that means that you have to, yeah.
yeah. This is why I'm single. But anyway.
All right. Well, yeah. 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 I'm one of those people who's like, I'm probably more like a Kayla, that I'm pretty nice, pretty, whatever, but
Hmm.
there'll be something that will happen one day that will make me snap, and then that other side will come out.
Yes. Yeah, and these days it's very easy to snap. So, yeah.
Very easy. It's very
Yes.
easy. But yes, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that part, because I know
Mhm.
a lot of times people are wondering, okay, well, this is your debut book, but as you say, you've been writing for a while.
Yeah.
So it's a process. And I guess it's encouragement to those who may be in that same space, that,
Mhm.
not to give up, that if, you say you got the agent that you wanted, and,
Yeah.
this particular book, was picked up, and all of the things happen quickly. So just not to
Mhm.
give up if it's something that you really believe in and that you really want to do. So that's a good piece of encouragement for everybody.
Oh, absolutely, and I've had so many moments, where I wanted to give up because I'm just like, this is never gonna happen. I have so many rejections. I mean, emails, I mean, you wouldn't even believe it because I've written a lot of stories and I've queried a lot of those stories, but they never got picked up, and then you just end up just kind of they just die on your hard drive like, well, that sucked, so I'll just move on and write something else, and then that sucked too. So, and then with Pitch Wars, with my particular I was class of 2018, and, like, I know Wanda Morris has been on your
Mhm.
program. She was in my group.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of so many just successful people came out of that, and then I would watch all of them get the agent deals, the book deals, the movie deals, the TV deals, and I'm just sitting over here still trying to query agents. And you feel I think it's okay to be in your feelings with this journey, but you can't stay there. You have to keep going because everyone's journey is going to be different. And people have said to me, keep your eyes on your own paper. What's for
Right.
you will always be for you. So just stay focused. If this is what you want, it will happen. You just have to keep going and be persistent and don't stop. So,
Mhm.
your time will be your time. So I always had to remember that. So, but it was tough because I mean, it took a while,
Yes.
but it was worth it. So,
Right. And I definitely say, timing is everything,
yes,
because sometimes it's not that the story isn't good. Sometimes it's just the timing
that's
and
so
all of that,
true.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like, even though things in the last 5 years since the pandemic and, the racial reckoning have kind of been up and down, but I do think
hmm
that maybe in some ways people are more open to different types of stories now, understanding
Yes.
that we do like to read and we like to see ourselves represented.
hmm
And the other thing about this story that I love is that the characters are messy, and as we were joking a few minutes ago, we all have some mess in us. You know what I
yes.
mean? And just because they're Black woman characters, that it's okay to write messy Black woman characters.
Right. It doesn't mean that you're stereotyping or bleeding into what some people think that Black women should or act like. I read a review. I know we're not supposed to read reviews, but I did read one, and I think it was written by a white woman, but she was saying that. um, I that the characters, um, like I stereotyped them, and I'm just like, you can't tell me as a Black woman how to write Black women, you know?
Right.
And these are how these women, these that's who they are, and they're not like caricatures or anything like that. I would never do that because I hate watching or reading anything like that. But yeah, like I created these characters out of love, out of they're combinations of people that I know in real life. Zorie was actually inspired by Kiki Palmer, so
Mm,
I
okay.
just yeah, I pictured her face, heard her voice through the whole thing. So
Mhm.
um, if it ever becomes like a movie or anything, like I would die if she was Zorie. I think she'd be perfect. But
Yes.
anyway, but
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
But I'm glad that people are catching on that. Yeah, we read we read everything and that
Right.
it doesn't have to be so like segregated and all that kind of stuff and that publishers should take more books from people of color because we need to see ourselves in our stories. I mean,
Mm,
that's just it. So yeah, hope it
absolutely.
continues.
Absolutely. And yes, we want to read, good thrillers or mysteries or romance, or, whatever it is. And again,
Yes.
see ourselves in it and be able to like get mad at the characters because, I read some and I also listened to some, right? So,
Hmm.
but, just listening and or reading like what, say what, or, or laughing or, whatever
Yes.
the case may be when certain things are happening, well, I'll speak for myself, and there are others who like to see, us center in stories. I mean, a good
Hmm.
story is a good story regardless, but for me, it's better when I can
Yeah.
see myself reflected
I
in the
agree
story.
because it
Mhm.
doesn't happen that much, like, not as
Right.
often as it should anyway, so it's wonderful when it does,
Mhm.
so I
Mhm.
agree.
So I will tell everybody, love you to death is a ride, literally and figuratively. It's a bumpy ride, literally and figuratively. Just looking at what's happening with these characters, there were things in the book that surprised me along the way. I was telling Christina about that before, but y'all got to read it to figure it out. Um, but yes, so you did a really good job in telling the story
Thank you.
and the adventure, bringing in the other cast of characters because that's another thing. We talked about there are other people, but there are a lot of. It's not like you're telling a story that's just taking one place, one time. It's one family, one job, whatever, and you're dealing with those people in those spaces. You are
Mhm.
traveling with your characters, so that's a
Yes.
whole other thing as well.
Mhm. I definitely wanted it to feel like you were in the if you're reading this, that you were in the back seat with these women, just listening to them, figure out their plans and going with them to these different places. So yeah, it definitely is it's a road trip book, but not in a fun way. I mean, it's a fun book, but they're not like, listening to music and eating Cheetos. Cheez-Its, but not Cheetos. But
Yes, yes. Yes, yes, absolutely. And I mentioned to this before because they're traveling, they went through Goodwater, Alabama, which Christina says she's never been there. But that is a real place, and I have been there. My real life father's father, my grandfather, and family is from Goodwater, Alabama. So I was like, "Ooh!" I was excited to see Goodwater
that's so
mentioned in the
funny.
book. Yeah,
Yeah. I feel like this was meant to be.
it
Like,
was meant to
I
be.
literally just Googled Goodwater, Alabama, put it in the book, and now I'm here with Marcy Thomas, whose grandfather is from see, everything connects. So,
Yes,
full circle.
everything connects, everything. Because I'm like, are we related? I'm trying to figure out where that came from. And of course, now we get to the end, we stop having technical difficulties.
Oh, yeah.
But it's been such a pleasure to talk to you, Christina. To everyone who is watching, I definitely suggest that you go and grab a copy of the book, especially if you like, something that's a wild ride. There's, we've already said there's some murder, there's some crime, there's all those sorts of things. But, it's written in a way that as we've kind of talked about in this conversation, there are other things to think about,
Mhm.
about friendship, about, the bonds that you have with people, about the toxicity sometimes in these relationships, and, what types of decisions do you make for yourself, in the midst of these relationships and all of that.
Mhm.
So that plays out, it's more than just Thelma and Louise-ish type stuff. so,
Yes.
so so I know that you have been like doing some conversations and attending events and things like that. Christina, is there any place that you're going to be in the coming weeks or months that people can come out and perhaps see you, get their book signed, meet you, talk to you more in depth about the story?
Actually, yes. I am lucky enough to be part of the some panels at the Black Book Bash. That is the first annual one. It's going to be in Jacksonville, Florida, from October 3rd through the 5th. Some really just like outstanding writers and journalists and celebrities are going to be there. I'm a huge like Real Housewives fan, so the fact that Cynthia Bailey is going to
Right.
be there, I'm really excited to meet her. Well, I don't know if I'm going to meet her, but hopefully, maybe I'll get a picture. But so that is happening, and then in November I will be at the Kentucky Book Festival. And now I can't even remember the date, but if you want to know when, you can just like DM me or something. But
Right. Yeah.
yeah, I can't remember, but those are the two big book events that are coming up in the next few months.
All right. Sounds good. And I will be at the Black Book Bash.
Are
So
you gonna be there? Oh,
yes,
good.
I will get to meet you there. I'm excited.
Yes.
I wait to tell you that, but yes, I'll be there.
Oh, good.
So
Well, I'm
I'll get a
excited to
chance
meet
to meet
you.
you.
Yes.
Yes, yes, absolutely. That's always fun to meet people in person. Why I enjoy, going to those types of events. So
Hmm.
now, for those of you who may not have had a chance to pick up a copy of the book yet, it is available at the Brown Girl Collective Bookstore, which is actually tied to Bookshop. So if you go there, you will find Christina's book and you'll be able to get a copy. And as I mentioned, it's also available where you can listen to an audio, whichever you prefer, or be like me, I do a little bit of both, just depending. So that's that. So last question. I know that usually by the time a book is out, people are already thinking about the next thing. So I know you don't necessarily have dates and things like that, but you're working on something else, correct?
Yes. So I am in the process. It's been a long one. I keep starting and stopping, but yeah, it's another unhinged kind of character with lots of messiness and lots of twists. So kind of focused on obsessive plastic surgery, obsessed with fame, reality shows, that type of thing. So it should be a good time. So
All right, I love
yeah.
it. I love you. And see, I'm already thinking of something. I'm gonna just say this real quick. There's a soap opera. I don't know if you've had a chance to see Beyond the Gates. It's the
My
new,
mom loves that. I haven't
yeah,
I haven't watched it though.
yeah, it's the new black soap opera. For those who don't
Mhm.
know, Beyond the Gates. It comes on CBS. But there was a situation where a crime took place there, and they did plastic surgery on someone to change their appearance.
Oh,
So
Lord.
yeah, after the crime took place. And when you said that, I was like, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Well,
so that's
that's
just
not what happens in my story, but that's
right, right. But yeah,
good.
that just
That's
made me think of
crazy.
that. Like, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So now you come back looking like somebody else, and people
That's
don't know who
always
you are.
a good twist. That's smart, though, if you can
It's
get
a
away
smart
with
twist.
it.
Yes,
Yes.
that actually happened on that soap opera Beyond the Gates. So I know y'all probably like, how does Marcy have time to read books and watch stories? I just do. I make time. I
Very
make time and record it so I can fast forward through the commercials, so it goes a lot faster. So that's that. But Christina, thank you so much again, everyone. Love you to death. I definitely suggest that you grab a copy of it and get into it, and then reach out to Christina and let her know how much you love it and all of that. So Christina, I'm gonna let you like grab some water, whatever the case may be. I got announcements on announcements on announcements for everybody. But if you
Okay.
could wait for me, but for just a moment, and I'll be right
Yes.
back with you.
Okay,
Okay,
no problem.
perfect, perfect. All right, so that was such a pleasure to talk to Christina about Love You to Death, her debut novel. Again, I do apologize for crazy technical glitches. Looked like it was on both sides throughout the conversation, but at least we were able to finish out strong. And thank you for your patience and for being here and watching. Now, I just mentioned that, I stay on the go. I got a lot going on, read a lot of books. And this week is no exception. On Wednesday, if you're in the Atlanta area, I will be at the Duluth Library, the Gwinnett County Library, Duluth branch on Wednesday. I want to say it starts at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m., for a conversation with Raven K. Stringfield about her latest book, Love in 280 Characters or Less. So if you're local to Atlanta, on August the 27th, I will be at the Duluth Library. I have talked to Raven before, so I'm looking forward to meeting her in person on this Wednesday. Also this week, busy week, I will be in conversation with Margaret Kennard on Thursday, which is the 28th at 6 p.m., for a conversation about We Refuse, A Forceful History of Black Resistance, by Kelly Carter Jackson. I actually interviewed Kelly earlier this year, but this is a conversation that Margaret and I will be having for Agitation August. And I chose August 28th for a very specific reason. If you know anything about Black history, August 28th is a very powerful day in Black history. So that's why I wanted to have this particular conversation. So that day I have two conversations, because at 8 p.m. I will be talking to Karita L. Brown about the battle for the Black mind, which is going to be another powerful conversation. So this is a busy book week for Miss Marcy. Then on Monday, we have a holiday. Next week, Wednesday, which will be September 3rd, I will be here with Diane McKinney-Whetstone, who will be back for the second time, and we'll be talking about her new book, Family Spirit. So again, as you see, I read a lot. My head's always in a book or listening to an audio while I'm doing other things, and still have time to watch the stories and do other things for fun. So everyone, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. It's always a pleasure to have you here with BGC for BGC Book Club Conversations. Please continue to like, share, comment, all of those things, and let our authors know how much you love their books, and let your book loving friends know that we're here having these great conversations. So without anything else to say for tonight, I'm going to bid you all adieu, and I will see you again on Thursday online. All right, take good care. Bye-bye.